remember that afternoon like it was burned into me the moment the doctor looked at my mom and said, "We believe Mr. George is showing early signs of Alzheimer's." My mom gripped my hand so tightly it went pale. I just stood there frozen, unable to process what I was hearing. My dad was only 60, still healthy, still driving, still remembered every birthday and appointment. But in recent months, he'd started forgetting neighbors' names, leaving his keys in the fridge, even forgetting how to open the garage keypad. Every time it happened, he'd laugh it off old age. Don't blame me. I believed him, so did my mom. From that day forward, everything changed. Mom quit teaching full-time. She switched to part-time so she could stay home and take care of him. I, working as a web designer, moved to remote work, then quit completely 2 months later. No one else could handle him like we could. Dad started moving slower, repeating himself. Sometimes he'd just sit and stare mid-meal, like he forgot what food even was. There was one night he looked me in the eyes and asked, "Dave, is that you?" Dave was his old college roommate. My stomach dropped, but something always felt off. His forgetfulness always happened when people were around. He never got lost when he was alone. He remembered the Wi-Fi password. He still knew which remote controlled what. Once he even adjusted the TV volume to my exact favorite level without asking. At first I thought I was being paranoid. Then I started taking notes. Days he was confused, days he was fine. Patterns emerged. The truth crept in like a crack in glass, silent, hairline thin, but spreading every day. Then 3 years after his diagnosis, on a perfectly normal afternoon, my dad disappeared. No phone, no note, no bag, nothing. We called the police, made flyers, alerted the hospitals, churches, gas stations. Mom shut down completely, stopped eating, barely slept, stood by the front door like she was waiting for a ghost. And me, I didn't even know what to hope for. That someone found him and helped him, or that he wandered off and wouldn't come back. Then 1 week later, it happened. I was scrolling Facebook when the photo popped up. A man sitting outside a cafe in Florida. White shirt, holding a glass of red wine, smiling at a woman I didn't recognize. Not a trace of confusion in his eyes. Just peace, confidence, freedom. I stared at it for a long time. My brain couldn't process it. But the truth started bleeding through my chest like ice water. That was my dad. No cane, no wheelchair, no distant stare. Not a single sign of late-stage Alzheimer's. Just the eyes of a man who had escaped. My dad wasn't sick, he ran. I didn't tell my mom what I saw. Not at first. She was barely holding herself together, looking through old photo albums like they might bring Dad back. I couldn't drop a grenade like that on her. Not while she still cried every time the doorbell rang. But I couldn't unsee the photo either. The timestamp on the Facebook post was just 12 hours old. The location was tagged Clearwater, Florida. The woman next to him was smiling too. Her arm was looped through his. I clicked her profile, Anna Bellamy, 52, bookshop owner. Her feed was full of beach sunsets, seafood dinners, and happy middle-aged selfies. And there, tucked between pictures of her dog and a blurry shot of paella, was a post from 3 months ago. grateful every day for this second chance at love. You've changed my life, G. My father. George. I couldn't breathe. I got in the car, drove around the block 3 times. I didn't know what I was doing. My heart felt like it was both racing and dead. That night I barely slept. At 3:00 a.m., I opened my laptop and started digging. I looked up Anna's business registry. It listed an address. A store name, Bellamy Books and Gifts. I searched tax records, found a rental agreement with a co-signer, George Landon. Landon, my father's middle name. He had used it as a last name. Clean, easy to pass, nothing directly traceable. He hadn't just left. He had prepared. The next morning, I called in sick, packed a bag, and booked a flight to Tampa. I didn't tell Mom. I couldn't. Not until I knew for sure. Not until I saw him with my own eyes. Florida was everything Missouri wasn't: warm, loud, full of pastel buildings, and people who didn't care what you were running from. I found the bookshop easily. It was cute, cozy. There was even a chalkboard outside that read, "Meet the owner, Anna and George." My jaw tightened. My fists did too. I waited across the street for an hour. And then he walked out. Khaki shorts, polo shirt, sunglasses on his head. Tan relaxed, carrying a box of books like someone who had never faked a single sick day in his life. He handed the box to Anna, who kissed him on the cheek. My world tilted. I didn't go to him. Not then. I watched. I followed them as they closed shop, grabbed lunch at a seafood place by the pier, laughed over a shared dessert like this was just any other Tuesday. No confusion, no memory lapses, no signs of illness. He remembered everything except us. That night back in my hotel room, I stared at the ceiling for hours. Rage and grief twisted inside me like roots. How do you confront someone who abandoned you while pretending to be helpless? How do you look into the eyes of the man who made you grieve him while he was living a new life, 2 states away? I thought about calling Mom, but what would I say? Dad isn't dead. He's tan in love and managing a bookstore with someone named Anna. Instead, I opened my notebook and wrote 5 words over and over until the page bled. He knew. He planned it. I waited one more day. Not because I was scared, though I was, but because I wanted to be calm when I spoke to him. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to punch walls. I wanted answers. Real ones. The next afternoon, I walked into the bookstore. There was a bell over the door. The place smelled like cedar coffee and paperbacks. Anna stood behind the counter, sorting a stack of new releases. She looked up, gave a polite smile. "Help you find something?" she asked. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Then he stepped through the curtain behind her. George. My father. Carrying a tray with 2 mugs. He didn't notice me right away. He was humming. When his eyes met mine, everything stopped. His face froze. His hands tightened on the tray. 1 mug rattled. For a second, I saw it, the panic, the recognition. "Daniel," he said quietly. Anna looked between us. "George." He set the tray down, slowly, then stepped around the counter. "Can we talk?" I asked. He nodded. We sat outside on a bench next to the shop. Palms swayed above us. A breeze blew warm and sweet. Everything felt surreal. How long, I asked. He didn't pretend. I started planning it the day I turned 60. Why? George looked out at the street like the answer might be passing by in a car. I was tired, he said. Not sick, just done. Done with what I snapped. With your wife, with me. He flinched, but not out of guilt, out of annoyance. With the grind, the house, the expectations, the guilt. I felt like a ghost in my own life. So you decided to fake dementia and disappear. He shrugged. Would you rather I walked out the front door and said, I don't want to be your father anymore? Yes! I shouted. At least that would have been honest. He rubbed his hands together like he could wash the memory off. I knew if I just left your mother would never forgive me. But if I was sick, if I became a burden then vanished, it would hurt, but you'd both move on. No hard questions, just grief. I stared at him in disgust. You thought grief would be easier than anger. He looked at me, then really looked. It was for me. We sat in silence. The air felt heavier now. The warmth was gone. I lost 3 years of my life, I said. He nodded. So did I. But now, I have something better. He said it like it was normal. Like he was the one who deserved peace. And what about Mom? I asked. She gave up everything for you. He didn't answer. You broke her, I continued. She didn't just lose a husband. She mourned a man who was sitting on a beach drinking wine. I left her free, he said. No, I said. You left her hollow. When I stood to leave, he didn't stop me. He just watched. As I reached the sidewalk, he said one last thing. Don't tell her. Let her keep the version of me she needs. I turned back. My voice shook. She doesn't need a lie anymore. Neither do I. Then I walked away, and this time it was me leaving him behind. I flew back to Missouri 2 days later. I had nothing to bring home except a photo I secretly took of him and Anna. Through the bookstore window, proof. Just in case my brain tried to convince me I imagined it all.
Mom was in the kitchen when I walked in, folding a dish towel like it might fall apart without her help. The TV was on, but muted. A pot of soup bubbled quietly on the stove. She looked up and smiled, her face soft with hope.
Did you find anything? She asked. I sat down at the table. My hands trembled. Yeah, I found him. The smile disappeared. She set the towel down. He's alive. I nodded. He's in Florida, Clearwater, running a bookstore with a woman named Anna. Her face didn't change. Not right away. She just blinked. What? He's fine, Mom. He's healthy. He faked it, all of it. Her breath caught. One hand reached for the chair, the other covered her mouth. She didn't cry. Not yet. I saw him, I said gently. He recognized me. He's using a fake last name. He's living a new life. She sat down slowly, like gravity had shifted. He said he needed to escape. That pretending to be sick was easier than being honest. Still, she said nothing. I'm so sorry. Then the silence cracked. She started to laugh. Not a happy laugh. A dry, bitter, broken laugh that sounded like it hadn't been let out in years. She leaned back in her chair, eyes wide, mouth open in disbelief. I should have known, she whispered. God. The way he'd flinch when I asked him to take his pills. The way he always remembered the damn Wi-Fi password. I should have known. You couldn't have, I said. No, she snapped. I could have. But I didn't want to. I didn't want to admit that the man I married would choose cowardice over honesty. We sat there for a long time, just breathing. Finally, she stood. You hungry? I blinked. What? You came home? I made soup. I nodded. We ate in silence. The soup was salty. Her hands didn't shake. That night she pulled out the wedding album. Not to cry, but to decide what to throw out. She tore out a photo of their honeymoon in New Orleans. She looked at it for a long time, then slid it into the trash. I spent 34 years loving a man who couldn't even say goodbye, she said. I didn't know what to say. He didn't take anything from me, she added. He just gave up his place in this family. She looked at me. You didn't. I swallowed hard. No, I said. I'm still here. A week later, divorce papers were filed. No drama, no announcements, just signatures. And just like that, the man we'd mourned was no longer legally tied to us, and hadn't been emotionally for much longer than we'd realized. Life didn't go back to normal, it just settled. The house felt quieter. Not hollow, not haunted, just calm. For the first time in years, there wasn't tension in every hallway, or unspoken grief humming beneath the kitchen lights. Mom started sleeping through the night again. She got a haircut short and sharp, like she was daring the world to look at her differently. She stopped wearing her wedding ring. Not ceremoniously, just stopped. One morning, she sat across from me at breakfast and said, I think I want to travel, somewhere by the water. Not Florida. I smiled. Yeah, I don't think we need to go there. She nodded. Maybe Oregon. Cold water, rocky cliffs. No bookstores. We laughed. It was the first real laugh we'd shared in months. I went back to work. Not full-time, just a few design projects here and there. But it felt good to use my brain for something that wasn't holding us together. At night, I'd go on long walks, headphones in hands, deep in my jacket pockets, thinking about the version of my dad I used to know. Or thought I did. There was no single moment where I forgave him. No epiphany. Just a gradual erosion of the space he used to fill. A part of me kept waiting for a letter, a phone call, something, but nothing came. That silence said more than an apology ever could. One evening, I came home to find a cardboard box on the porch. No return address, just my name written in clean slanted letters I hadn't seen in years. Inside was a watch, his old one, the one I gave him for his 50th birthday, and a note. I didn't deserve this then. Maybe you'll wear it better, G. No explanation, no apology, just a final act of detachment dressed up as closure. I put the note back in the box, left the watch on the counter. Mom came in from the garden, wiping her hands on a towel. Something wrong, she asked. I shook my head. Just a memory I don't need anymore. She looked at the watch, picked it up. Then without a word, she walked it out to the trash and dropped it in. Spring turned to summer. We painted the living room, took turns picking music. She played Joni Mitchell. I played the National. We bickered about color swatches, but neither of us raised our voice. There was nothing left to fight about, only time, and time finally was ours again. It's been 5 years. I don't think about him every day anymore. Sometimes I'll pass a bookstore or hear someone hum the tune he used to whistle when he thought no one was listening, and I'll pause. Just a flicker. Nothing that sticks. Mom lives in Portland now, near the river. She teaches watercolor at a community center and keeps her fridge organized like a puzzle she refuses to lose. She laughs more. She's lighter. We talk every Sunday. It's not a rule, it's just what we do. Routine built from wreckage. As for me, I moved out of state last year. Started a new job. Got a dog. Met someone. I'm not afraid of building things anymore, not because I trust everyone, but because I finally learned that broken people don't have to break everything they touch. A letter came in the mail last week, handwritten. No return address. I opened it at the kitchen table, not expecting anything, and somehow still not surprised when I saw the signature. Daniel. I don't know what to say. Or if I even have the right to say anything. I'm older now. Slower. A little less certain that I was right about anything. If you're still angry, I get it. If you never want to speak again, I understand. I just thought you should know I think about you. I think about her. I think about what I did. I don't know if that means anything, but I remember. All of it. Gee.
I sat with the letter in my hand for a long time. Then I folded it, placed it back in the envelope, and put it in a drawer I rarely open.
That night I walked down to the lake near my house. My dog chased fireflies. I stood still, the air thick with summer, and I realized this was the first time I read his words, and didn't feel heat in my chest. Just quiet, not forgiveness, not closure, just peace. He's still out there somewhere, I suppose. Older, maybe alone, maybe not. But the version of him that lived in my bones, the one who hurt us, who vanished, that man finally disappeared the day I stopped needing answers. The day I let the silence stay silent.